Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hope we're all okay on this sort of sunny weather type day. It's yeah, not the norm to do a Thursday, but of course we've got something a bit different here we wanted to share with you. And this is from the Papercraft Society. They do a subscription box once a month, and of course for this month it was the Sanntangle one. So rather than sort of do an unboxing kind of thing, I thought it would be more beneficial if I actually went through some of the items in there, because if you've done this before, you know what you're going to get. You know about the stencils and the tortillons and what the tiles are for. But I thought if I do a little bit of sort of more technical, how to do this, how to do that, rather than to sort of make a product from start to finish, that might be a little bit more useful for you. So if we're ready, before I sort of unbox it, you know, you've got this little booklet that comes with it as well. Lots of information in there and instructions, and I'll refer to that in a short while. You've also got in there some of these little babies. Now I'm sure we all know what these are. They are tiles. They don't have our name on the back, but you can still write your name and the date on the back. And these are brilliant for you to colour in, ink around, do what you want to do with, and perfect for little toppers for your cards. But also, I think what would be really nice with these is to have a look at some of the little tangles that have been included and maybe add some more to them. So they could be almost practice pieces. This one, for example, really nice one. Let's just move that out of the way and just work on this just for a second. And I'm just going to bring a pen in. So rather than say, you can just colour it in if you want to, but what if we look at it and think, well, okay, I just want a bit of a practice, never done this before. Just let's put some lines into these little heart shapes here. And you notice that, let's go a bit bigger, there you go. I've used the same pen to draw these tiles that I am to sort of work with these as well. So go on in and just add your own little bit to it. It makes it a little bit more unique, completely true to you. And then sort of in here, let's do some little dots and lines. So it's a really nice one if you're a little bit afraid to start and you're not quite sure. Then coming in and just having some little dots and some little lines will make a huge difference. You see already how that's sort of changing the piece up. Here we go. So add in a few little lines in. Sort of feel compelled to finish it then, don't you? You see the difference between that one. Let's go out a little bit. That one and that one now. So all I did there, see, you could go in and do all your lines first if you want, and then come back in and put your dots in. Whatever you're comfortable with. There's absolutely no right or wrong here. You can do whatever you want to do with it. But it just looks a little bit nicer, doesn't it, having something extra to it. So if you were still waiting for your box, I do apologise, I'm showing you everything that's in it, but I thought it was about time I actually went on and did this. So you see there the difference now. And then of course we could take one of these shapes and start to create these little swirls around the frame. See, it's a swirl, but we put little bobbles on the end. See, keeping that swirl going, little bobbles. And again, you've probably done this before, but if you never have, there are lots of Sanntangle tiles on YouTube you can go and have a look at and see how we draw these. This is actually one of those that you'll find, so if you wanted to give it a go and draw it for yourself, then you can go over there and have a look at how it was done. I can't remember what number this was now, it's been a little while, but you see there we can start to fill in this sort of wonderful border. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but you can see where it starts there. Okay, so whilst we've got a tile out, you've also got little tortillons, little paper stubs. Now I know the ones in your pack are a little bit longer than mine, and they're double-sided. Same sort of thing. What it is, it's rolled up paper, very tightly rolled up paper. And you can see this one's been used a little bit. It's got some graphite on it. But they're really, really useful. You don't want to get any water on them if you can help it. They're all for blending pencil and pastels. Not coloured pencil, just our regular graphite pencil. but great little addition in your kit if you've got one of these. Now remember, with one of these, tangle on the back, don't leave it plain, tangle on the back. But brilliant for actually sharpening. I would say sharpening, don't use a pencil sharpener. And cleaning off the pointed end of your tortillon. Alright, so you do that. These will last you for ages and ages and ages. So you think that you've got double-sided ones, you see? So it's all nice and clean now. And we've got that lovely point back, so we're going to get some nice detail in there. So if I just come on up a little bit, so there we go. And I'm just going to use my pencil and show you how to sort of use the tortillon now. I haven't sharpened my pencil in the pack yet, so this is one out of my stash, but it'll work in the same way. They're all graphite. Just what I would do to start with is put a very small amount of pencil on, and once you've sort of softened it out, you can decide if it's heavy enough. If not, if you want it a bit darker, you can go in and add a second layer. So you see what I'm actually doing here is adding pencil on. I'm not really colouring in, it's not particularly neat. So I'm going to go over there as well, because that's pot the border as well. You see the difference, okay? So then I'm going to bring in my tortillon. Let's just go in a little bit more. So you can see I've got some pencil on, but again, not very neat. It's fine though. What I'm going to do is ever so gently soften off that pencil line there. Okay, if you find it's not moving as much as you want, you can come in and you can swirl it and then blend it. Same with this one. So see, I'm going around in little swirls. There you go, and along we go. So if I just zoom out a little bit with that, you can see you're starting to get a little bit of dimension there. So I would probably go back in and do an extra layer of that later on. But for now, let's just sort of work it round. So you see, nice and gentle swirling motions there. And along we go. And again. So you don't have to particularly colour it in if you don't want to. You can just add some pencil to it. Blend it in. A bit there as well. You notice I'm moving the tile or this piece of cardstock around. I'm not trying to shade and do it sort of in one place. You know, work it around to make it comfortable so it sits in your hand, or you're not straining or anything with what you're drawing there. Okay, so along there. Okay, so you've got sort of your first layer on there. So what I would do is I'd come back in, add a little bit more. See, I'm adding on both sides of the line there. See, just building up that layer, just sort of working it round as we go. And then before you know it, you're going to have something that's starting to look a little bit more dimensional. There you go. You could always bring your fine liner pen in and add a little bit more too if you wanted. And I think something that works really nicely actually, if you work with your pencil and your tortillons, sort of blend in some of the areas, but then choose a few and go in with coloured pencils and just have that little bit of a highlight. So I'd probably use my pencil and my tortillon to go around the outside edge and maybe pick up on the flower here being a different colour and maybe bring in the hearts. And then once that's done, everything else would be completely monochrome, and I think that looks great. Don't forget as well, you could actually ink all the way around the edges and it makes a lovely card. So that's sort of that kind of thing. So looking at what you can do with this, let's just have a look at this one. It's on the front cover. You see you've got a tile there and it's just been matte and layered with a little bit of the paper from the pack, and then a little strip down the edge here. This is a little bit of a stamp going on, just to give it a bit of extra detail, and then of course the actual letter, which I've filled in because you do have quite a thicker pen in there as well, so fill that in with a thicker pen. That works brilliantly. So just having a little look at that. See, here we go. Let's see a picture of me. There we are. There it is. So that one is the same sort of thing that you can do with what I've just done, but it shows you how to draw it. So it takes each section bit at a time and then shows you how it can be built up. Even down to here, look, I show you where to put the pencil, how to sort of shade it out, and then of course that's your card done. So that is how you can work with all of these little tiles here. So you've got, I think there's 12 to choose from. Even this one, for example, you could actually put a little sentiment in, and it works any way around. So whatever you wanted to do with that. There's quite a few different bits and pieces on it. I particularly actually like this one because actually colouring these bubbles in, there we go, I tend to do. It's almost like putting a little smile, like a part smile. Imagine it's got two little eyes, little smirks on there. And again, whether you do this in colour or whether you do it monochrome, see if we soften out that pencil. It's going to give us is a slightly three-dimensional feel to it. You see the difference? Soften that a bit more. All I'm doing there is using a pencil and a little bit of that tortillon just to blend it. Look at the difference. You see, once all those are done, you're going to get this lovely sort of swirl effect. Same sort of thing on here is I would probably shade the top and the bottom. Let's do a couple so you can see how this works. There we go. I think beauty of this as well, even if you think, oh, what I've done I don't like, it's a pencil, rub it out, start again, it's fine. You see what I've done here, look at the difference there. I've actually used pencil either side and I've left this little highlight in the middle there. Let's just bring a bit of pencil around the back. So what we're actually doing is, again, giving it a little bit of depth and dimension, and that's what pencil and the tortillon's all about. So if you've never used one before, I do hope that that's given you a little bit of an insight. Look at that now, how the difference, you see, bringing that bit of dark in. Let's bring a bit of dark in here as well. Again, not particularly colouring in, I'm just applying graphite. And then soften that out. Go. See, we can even start to sort of work that in a little bit so it's got a bit more, there we go, with a 3D feel. There we go. You see how that sort of starts to blend out, and just with a little bit of graphite and a tortillon. There you go. So imagine once that's completely done, that's going to look really good. I think I'd probably, again, highlight the flowers and maybe a little bit of ink around the edges as well there, and that would sort of make a huge difference to that one. So that sort of covers a little bit of shading there, how to do. Look how sort of that's starting to come three-dimensional. Build up your layers, nice and gentle, don't press on with anything. Use the tortillon to blend it out and you're going to get this little bit of depth. Don't forget to leave a little bit of a highlight. If you do, you could always go in with a bit of a rubber and give yourself a little bit of a clean swoop there, but that's generally how they kind of work. What I want to get onto is these, and at the moment they don't really look like much, they just look like a load of circles and squares and a few dots. What's going on here then? So let's address and do this one first, I think, and I think you'll be amazed at what you can actually do with it. I'm hoping so anyway. So a little bit of card, again, back in with my pencil, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on this little bit in the middle first of all. So let's put this in, and you can see I've used this a couple of times, so you can see I've got my pen, I've marked bits, but don't worry about that. With a fine liner you can rub them off, so it's okay. All right, so let's have a look at this. I'm going to start with, actually I'm going to use the outside dots, so I'm just going to mark those in with my pencil. Just needs a little mark, and the middle dot. Okay, so let's have a look at that. There you go, see, just marked in the dots all the way around. So using the edge of my stencil, I'm going to join the dots that are opposite each other. I'm going to sort of extend it a bit as well. See that one? So then I'm going to go to the next one here, which takes me to the next one here. Draw another line. Then the next one, and the next one. Draw another line. Same again, there to there. Another one. See, this is something I could have done it earlier to show you, but I think it's really informative for you to see how it starts and where we sort of get the shapes from. Okay, so we've got that kind of thing. See, I've still got those little dots there. They are important, but I've extended the lines beyond just a little bit. And now we've got the fun bit. So we've got 3 different sizes really. We've got the large, the medium and the small. So if we now look at the shapes that we've got here, we've got a large, a medium and a small. A large, medium, small, same here. And of course we've got a couple of little extra, what I would say, little droplet, teardroppy kind of shapes there as well. So being that I've come with the larger sort of frame there, or the larger dots, I'm going to go with, let's have a look, this one. I'm going to use my larger shape here. So first things first then, what I want to do is I want to put this point to this point here on the drawing. So trying to work out what's level. Nice thing actually here is because I have drawn the stencil, you can actually line it up with this point as well. You see, so I've lined it up there and I've lined it up there. So I know that's sort of vertical, half and half, either side of that line. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. If it didn't and we didn't have this here, what I would do with it is I would come in and I'd mark where I thought my halfway was. Let's just go in a little bit so you can see that. See, just with my fine liner. So there you go, look, just marked, that's where my halfway is. So then I could line the point up, and then looking at this vertical line, I could line that up there. Okay, and then I'm going to draw around it. Okay, first one, there you go. So then I'd move to the next one, and I'm going to repeat the same process. So I'm going to put line my point up with that vertical, because it is vertical, if I that way, see? And then my little mark that I've put at the bottom there, again, is lined up. And I'm going to draw another one. Turning it round, lining it up. I'm going to draw another one. And again, turning it round, lining it up. Now, just because I've used the larger one here and I'm creating something all the way around, you can still, if you want to, include one of the smaller ones with it. You can build up the layers and the depth as you go. Or you could think, do you know what, that's a little bit too much, and you could sort of do one dot and then miss a dot. So you've got a slightly different pattern yet again. There we go. So every single time I'm drawing that same shape, but it's turning into something a little bit more exciting at the bottom edge there. So just keep following it all the way around, point to point, and again. There we go. Looking for my dot. Remember that dot's important. Now, of course, if you were to use this shape the other way around, it would give you something different. So don't think it's just one way. You can use it whichever way you like. Let's have a look at that. So we've sort of got an instant type of mandala kind of shape, haven't we, going on there? And so we can do all sorts of things with it. For example, let's extend it. Let's put little dots on the edges there. Remember, everything behind is construction. We've done it in pencil, so it'll rub away. And it'll just leave us with this little design here that we've created. Okay, what about putting a little bit of a wavy line up here? Because of course we want to put it onto, see, this is where my bubbles come, onto a little bead, maybe there. Let's have a little look at that. So if I just sort of thicken that up a little bit there, there we go. Gives me something there. All right. We could even bring it a little bit further up. See, I'm using the edge of my stencil here just to give me some straight lines. There we go. Just go out a little bit, and let's put a little sort of a shape on the end, and then take that and take it around so it just sort of looks like it's being held on there. Okay, what if we did so this one's going to come round. Let's do it this way. Let's take it that way, look, and around and around, and sort of bring it back down there. It looks like it's been wrapped around a little bit. So again, something a little bit different, just sort of starting from that first point, and then maybe at the bottom again. Tangles and little designs, there's hundreds and hundreds of them. You'll find lots of them online. As I say, you can go onto YouTube and see how we actually create these. And so I can put they're like little question marks, aren't they? We used to do bubble writing when we were at school. That was when I was teaching. It's nice to sort of put them in. So we've got these sort of wonderful dangly kind of shapes going on there, and maybe even to have some bubbles in those little shapes there as well. Sort of wandering out. So you could, if you wanted to, I mean, I've got something hanging now. You could put these all the way around on every single shape if you wanted to. Let's just have a look at that. There we go. So let's bring in that little teardroppy shape, you know, that we said we've got a bead at the top there. I've still got my vertical line here, so I'm just going to drop that on there like so. And then because I want it to look quite neat, I'm going to use one of those. See? And then I can join that one up there. Let's join it to that there. It looks like it's hanging. So that's just one. I mean, we could have extras in there. You could have lots of these little dream catcher kind of things that would then give you a kind of picture. So let's just ignore that one for a minute. So let's have a look at this one, for example. This one's been done in the same way, but you can see, as well as having the dots to give you the shape, which is on my stencil, which is there, you've also got this circle that will actually give you the outline to create that. So if you wanted to create a pattern within that, or if you wanted to circle round it, you could actually do that because they match. All right, that was quite a thing that I wanted to make sure that happened there. And then of course, look, here are some little tangles you can have a sort of a go at. This one, for example, has been done using one of these little circles here. So if I was to just show you that one, I'm going to turn my page over a little bit. So let's have a look. So let's draw one in. How does this work then? So looking at it, we've got some little lines, you see, starting here and sort of following them round a little bit. So let's do that. Now, I know that this was the starting point. See, looking at this one here. So then come back and do another. You see, always coming back and then going in. So it's almost like they're joining all the way around. Now, there's more than one way of doing it, so you don't have to do it exactly the same way. You can work it whichever way you want to do, but you see how it's, I'm starting thick and getting thinner. Starting thick, getting thinner each time. It's getting a little bit smaller, but every time I'm doing the same thing. Thicker than thinner, thicker than thinner. And that's creating your little flower shape. You see? Similar? Okay. So that sort of covers that one. I'm sure I did have, let's have a look within the pages there. I think we've started to go into stamps then as well, so let's not worry about that. Okay, there we go. Knew there was another one. So you can see now that's exactly the same shape I've just used to create that design there. So there's that design, look, and there's that design, exactly the same shape. So looking at this one, I didn't use the same shape as that. I've actually used this one. You see, it's smaller, it's one of the little ones. So I've actually used this shape here to create that shape there. And again, having a little bead in the middle just makes a bit of a difference, and having this sort of looping line, which we've just done around here. What we haven't done, we didn't do these little shapes. So again, just as a little technique, in case you've never done this before, is to bring in our little curved line, and then I'm going to put like a little leafy shape, 2 curves on the end. So then if I bring those little leafy shapes all the way down, and then all the way down on the other side, and then join them to that first line, see, you've created your very first flourish. So then we can extend it a little bit and add more. And the nice thing about this is you don't have to use those little leafy shapes if you don't want to. You can add something else on the end. Okay, for example, if I turn it over again. So we've got that same line. Oh, let's just zoom out a little minute. There you go. That same line. So what if this time I wanted to have, I don't know, maybe a bubble on the end with a couple of little leaves. And then let's join them. And then have slightly bigger shapes. And slightly bigger shapes this side. And then we can join them together that way. So you see how it sort of works? What about Christmas? What if we did a letter M? See, letter M. And then they did like a mirror image the other side. We've got a bit of holly. So working along, you see, letter M, joining to the stem. So once you've tried one thing, you'll notice very quickly that you can change different bits and pieces with it. So there is that kind of thing going on there. So that sorts our little dream catcher out. Of course, hence looking at this, we've got, you know, the sort of the stamp there that gives us that as well. And just while we're here, if you look at this stamp, you could see now this you could actually hand draw if you wanted to add to it. So the stamp itself, let's just have a quick look at that. It starts with a dot and a curl, and then I'd put in the next curl, and then it comes along with a little dot, and then up again with a dot, and with a dot, you see? And then there's that leaf shape again coming in, and this time the line's extended up, and then part of it is actually filled in. So although you've got the stamp to start with, if you wanted to extend that, you could then bring in more of those, and you could have more of those coming in as well. So you can create something that's a little bit unique to you, and it depends on the kind of thing you want to do with it that you can sort of go with. So that's a really nice way of looking at it. So that sort of gives us that point. That covers that stencil. Of course, as I say, you can bring in all of them together, just one or just a smaller one, whatever you want to do. They're really cool shapes to work with. But you've also got this stencil, and we have sort of worked with this little bit, and we've sort of decided the bubbles, but I want to show you what else you can do with this stencil. So I'm just going to bring in another piece of cardstock here. Let's have a look. Let's just move up a little bit. Tidy up a little bit. It's looking like my craft room already. Okay. So a few little things I'm going to do. I'm just going to line up a little bit so I've got all those dots on that piece of cardstock. Okay. So just as we've done before, what I want to do is I'm going to mark in each of those dots all the way around. So they're there for a specific reason. It's important that we know what we're going to do with this. There we go. Okay. And again, I wanted you to see exactly where we start with this, because if you've never seen this before, it's a little bit new to you. You're not quite sure where to go with it. I'm just going to put those little points in as well. Just need them. They're going to help out in a little while. There we go. Okay. So that's that little bit there. So just whilst I've got it, I might as well join those up. Sorry about that. It's a bit wonky, doesn't matter. Okay, turn it round. And let's roll those in. So they're just sort of to help you get the corners right. There you go. And notice again, I'm doing this in pencil, which means they're construction lines. So it's not going to be seen maybe when you finish, because you're going to have lots of different things going on over the top. Okay, there we go. And into that one. So looking at our little dots now, you are going to need a ruler for this, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually mark, let's just join our corners first with those dots. You see? Same there and same there. Okay, so I'm just going to use my piece of cardstock that I got before, because what I want to do now, looking at this dot here, I want to join it to this dot here. So you see where it started, corner to corner, I'm going to turn it so that dot and that dot join together. So we've got that one and that one, you see, to there, and then turning it again, that one to that one. Now I'm not really drawing the line all the way across, I don't need it, I'm just working within this sort of space I've got up there, and then there to there, and there to there. We go, and along. Oh, drawn it all the way along. I didn't need to do that, but that's okay. Getting carried away, see? So then this one to this one. So once you get the hang of it and you think, oh, I've kind of got this now, what we're wanting to do is to completely split up the space that we've got here and give us some sections to work within. So let's just do that one, just to there. Now this could be used as a frame, so you could have something on the inside and this could go around the outside to give it a little bit of detail. You could use one of the stamps to create something in the middle there, and then you could even cut this out if you wanted and have it sort of mounted with foam pads slightly higher, or all sorts of things you could do with that. But, it's also, you could just keep going with it. You could just draw these lines and have more of the frames going inside. So again, you're creating a little bit of a mandala kind of shape. There you go. Just sort of following it all the way around. And into this one. So you'll see you've got, it almost looks like it's a little bit of perspective. You see we've got all these lines going in towards the middle, and they would all join if that's what we wanted it to do, but we don't need this middle bit here. What I'm going to do is just put in this extra line here. Now you see the dots, I'm not going to join the dots there, I'm going to come a little bit further out. Okay, so you can sort of get an idea as what I'm doing there. So I'm going to focus just on this line. I'll show you what I want to do. Again, this is where it turns into be a little bit more fun, because you can decide what you're going to do with it and where it's going to sort of lead. So, okay, let's start with this top area here. I'm going to go across at an angle from there to there with a bit of a curve. And then I'm going to repeat in each one of those lines, just like that. Now, again, you sort of get into the feel of it. So I know I'm doing it a little bit quicker. There's no rush. You can take your time with it. It's not a problem. And I could have done this as a straight line. I could have done a curve going in if I wanted to, or lots and lots of options. This is just one. So there we go. And that's what I would do all the way around, giving me that sort of look. So coming back on myself now, I'm going to imagine that I'm going to go from this point to this point. So if I just did that with pencil for a minute, from there to there with a curve, you see? Let's go in a bit bigger for you. But instead of going all the way across to the point there, I'm going to just go to there. So imagine where it is. If you need to go in with pencil first, it's absolutely fine. You can do that. And then this one. And this one. And that one. So you see, each time it's now starting to give the impression that it's going, even on this one, like, behind the other. Let's have a little look at that. You see? It's going behind the other. So I could leave it there. I could put a little curved line in it. I could do a straight. I could do a curve. And then I could do something different in this box, which, tell it up to you. There's so many different variations. But what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to come back down on myself and I'm going to create a curve coming this way. See, following diagonally in each section, one at a time. Just taking my time there. You see, it's gonna, each one, it's gonna be a little bit wider here, it gets narrower, but that's because we've got those construction lines in. And once it's done, it's gonna give us a little bit more of a three-dimensional effect. So same again, you see we've got this sort of lovely shape going on, but we've got a line going nowhere. So again, I'm going to imagine that I'm going to this line here. So I've done an inner curve there, so I'm going to do an inner curve there, you see? But just part way. And again, just part way. Part way. Every single one of the frames that I do works in this way, but each time you do it, I'm honest, you'll do it differently. You'll find a different way of doing it. You'll try a different line. Something will be different. There you go. So you've got these lovely shapes going on. So let's have a look at this. We can leave it as that, or we can draw inside what we would call an aura. I'm going to do a few of those. And what I'm doing is I'm following the lines just slightly inside, and then creating, it's almost like a little frame within a frame. There we go, into the next one. And you notice as I'm doing it, I'm doing the same sort of lines, following the guidelines, of course. All going the same way, just makes life easier. Same with this one. All the way up there we go. Oh, join it. And then moving it around slightly, just so it's a little bit more comfortable to draw. So in these curves go. And into that one. And following it round. So you see now we've got these sort of little frames going on. Very repetitive, so it is going to be quite relaxing to do. Don't have to worry about it. You see? Yeah, let's go a little step further. Maybe we want to put a little loop in there. And you see what I've done is followed that line. So I've still got that construction line in. Followed that line. And all the way along. Similar, but you notice again that they are slightly different sizes because of the nature of those little sections there. Oh, there you go. Sorry, got carried away drawing them, didn't show you. So let's do two that way. So you find, because I've sectioned it off now, and I know I can get two in there, it just sort of seems to flow. And you don't need to worry about, am I going to have enough space? We've split it off enough to give you that extra little bit of sort of structure. And of course, if it's different, it really doesn't matter. And then let's do two this way as well. So again, you see I've got those lines, so I could put one here. And then you see how I'm using them to help me to create those little shapes there. And the same here. So just remember, when you saw that first square and thought, oh, what are these? They're just a few lines. There's more to it than meets the eye. Every single stencil that we do has got something a little bit more to it. Okay, let's have a little look at that. So look what we've created there. And let's just look back at the stencil. It was these dots and it's these two lines all the way around. But look what it's created. Next time it'll be something completely different. So let's just bring in, see I'm going to put that line in. Now I know I want to keep it. Yeah. And I could do loops this way. Now again, notice, start from the middle, and then do either side. And that again is going to give you a little bit more structure. You're splitting up the space, and then you're going into one, and then into the other. So each time, and again, you're going to get into a flow. So I do hear quite a lot people say, I haven't got time for it. I really haven't got time. It's going to take me ages. Well, it's part of the fun of you relaxing a little bit and filling these little spaces in. You're being creative. This is your own piece of artwork. And then at the end of it, you're getting something really special. So it's not about not having the time. You could do a little bit of this and put it down and come back to it later. Or you could spend the whole afternoon just tangling away. And trust me, once you get going with this, you'll be lost. It'll be completely forgetting that the kids' tea's got to be done or the ironing's still there. It really doesn't matter anymore because you'll just want to be drawing these little shapes. And everything will sort of disappear around you. And you can have a moment just to chill out a little bit. Let's have a look at that. You see how that's worked? Quite simple, very quickly. And I'd probably come in and I'm going to put another line in there. So you see, so that would be done all the way around. So let's bring a little bit of pencil in. Of course, I'd make sure that my pencil was all completely, so my pen was dry before I came out and I rubbed all the pencil away. But just to sort of show you how you can shape that in. You can go in and do each individual petal if you want to, or loop. You could fill these in with a little bit of black ink if you want to. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to add some pencil to those two sides there. So just where the shapes are formed, there and below. And there and below. You see? There and below. And again, I'm not particularly colouring it in. You can add colour, you can add your gems, whatever you want to do. But I would get a little bit of shading on there first. You see how that already looks like it's got a little bit more 3D about it. Let's have a little look at that. You see? Let's move it along a bit. There you go. So if I now come in with my tortillon, remember that paper stub, and let's start at one end. And what I'm going to do is just glide over, back and forth a few times. What I'm doing, you see you've got this hard edge. I'm wanting to soften it off a little bit. And the idea is we're not going to hold it right at the end like a pencil. We're going to hold it further back and allow the tortillon to do the work. Okay. See how that just follows it through? And along, and along. And then come back the other way. And fill that bit in. Now what I tend to do as well, if you're actually going to gift this to somebody, if it's on a card, graphite can be usually quite smudgy and it will actually transfer onto other things, if you use a lot of it especially. So I tend to fix it once I've done it. There's a couple of ways. My old college days takes me back to using hairspray. That works for a little while, smells very nice. If you want to splash out on some fixative, you can use that. That means it's going to stay, it holds it in place, and you can get that from art shops and all sorts of places. You can also use a spray varnish. And that means that you're going to get a sort of slightly sheeny finish, but it's permanent. And what works really nicely with that is once you've allowed it to dry, go over the top with some coloured ink. It's not going to move your pencil at all, but it is going to add some colour over the top, and usually it creates some quite interesting effects, because you know your varnish isn't always going to be completely super smooth, so it sort of sits in the indents and things like that. There we go. So imagine looking at that, doing that all the way around. It's quite amazing, isn't it, when you think about it? And again, let me just bring that stencil in. So we've used these dots and these lines to help us out. Everything else, it was a series of curved lines. We've not really done any straight lines there. Curved lines and loops. And it looks fabulous, doesn't it? Imagine that going all the way around your frame. Even if you wanted to, if you sort of think, well, I've actually done this lovely rectangular piece, how do I fit that into a square? There's two ways of doing this, actually. I always like to have something that comes into my frame, so I'd really be enticed to use the square and have the bottom section coming out, so it's like, you know, escaping almost. But you could also mark the dots, mark them so far down, and then you could move the stencil a little bit further down and carry on marking, and then you've got a rectangle rather than a square. So that's quite a nice way of doing it. But imagine this sitting inside that. I mean, all we've done is a little bit of pencil work so far. Nothing crazy, have we? I've added no colour. I've not done anything else with that. I've not even opened the pack, in a sense. We've just looked at these stencils, actually, which is in the pack. Just sort of coming in and showing you as well where you could add a little bit of pencil here. And you can see, just having a little bit of fun with it, you know, playing around and trying a few things, creating these wonderful little pieces without really trying to do anything else. You see there, look, we can bring a bit of pencil in and start to add some shade. This would nice bits of glitter and things. You see, look at the difference there already. It's starting to create something. So let's put that to one side just for a minute. So we've actually looked through the book mostly. So there are some stamps. This one's a good stamp. But again, there's a video showing you how you can draw that on YouTube. This was done with, you can see the frame, so it's a slightly different pattern. It's a letter. Looking at the dots, and this frame's been done sort of as a square, creating squares, and it's a letter S all the way along. So that's that one. And then there, look, we've done the same sort of frame, but we've done a zigzag, and then put loops in those upper zigzags and a little square. Let's have a look a bit closer than that there. Oh, I can. There you go. And a little square in the bottom there. That looks quite nice. So there's just using that one frame there, we used stamps. But look, the background, you've got that little circle shape that's on the stencil that we've used there. And moving along. Okay, that's bits of the paper and there's stamps. Same sort of thing. See here, look, you've got these lovely stamps. You can bring these bits in, but then you can add your own things with it. So that's that bit. Then looking at, oh, there's another frame. So I'm showing you everything. If you've not got it yet, I'm sorry. There's, look, showing you how to use the frame and see how that's been added. So now you could look at this and not think it's so scary. You can see, look at that top section. It zigzags almost, isn't it? So that's not too bad. And then look how it can turn out. So that's a full sort of filled in mandala, and so that sort of covers all that lot. But all right, just a quick look inside the box then. How does it come? It's actually, I'm really pleased with the outside of the box. I think it looks fab, and it's of course got the Sanntangle logo. And if those of you that don't know, the wings behind the logo is all down to remembrance of my sister, who sadly passed away a few years back. But the clock is all about us being time. We don't have much time. We've got very little of it, all that kind of thing. So working our way in, got some little quotes there to help you, and then of course the stamps. So the stamp tile size. So even if you thought, do you know what, that's not my type, you could turn it over, you could stamp on the back of that. Don't not use it. Little bits and pieces, they're all hand drawn, so you could reproduce these, you could copy them, and they would still look as though you'd drawn them. This one particularly is quite a nice one, isn't it? Flowers, you could use the circles in the stencil as well to create and draw flowers. There's that lovely little stamp we sort of talked about a little bit earlier. And then into the next little bit. So let's have a look. Again, there's that flower from that. Let's have a look. Here it is. There's that flower. So you could do a nice little background with that if you wanted to, and use that one. This one, really nice little shape. Very sort of oriental almost. And then again, there's that lovely tile that we said you could use it either way. So this one comes out and you can put something in there. Swirls and bubbles, very important. Flourishes, that kind of thing. And of course, you've got your paper. There's your stencils, and of course you've got your backing papers, which yeah, I created especially to go with, and like that we love our bubbles and that kind of thing. So hopefully I've covered everything. I know I've not done any stamping, but I'm sure anybody watching this is used to stamping. They know what they're doing with that, and it's just extra little flourishes that you can add and try them out and make backgrounds with, all sorts of things. Actually using the words, there is a lovely background. Again, I'm referring to the book so you can have a look at this video and then go and have a closer look for yourself. Let's have a look. It's the one with the flowers. Here we are. One more to go. There we go. So you see the background there was done. This is all those little stamps, and of course the words that I've then coloured in, things like that. So really nice way of looking at it. So one more thing, I think I just need to sort of show you. I think the circles and drawing a flower from these circles. So I'm going to use this frame shape here. Let's go in a little bit closer, and I'm going to draw let's draw that in there. There's my circle, and then I'm going to use the smaller one. I'm going to bring my pen in here to put the bubble in. Okay, notice it doesn't have to be in the middle. Flowers aren't always exactly facing forward. And then I'm going to split up my space, and split up my space, and split up, and split up. Okay, so I've got all these little sections. So let's go in a little bit bigger. So then I'm going to take each section and I'm going to create a little loop in each section. So no rush for this, and we know when we get to the end we're going to have enough space so we don't have to squeeze a petal in place. It's all there. We know that that one is going to fit with that. And then let's put in a couple of little flicks in there, just sort of working in towards the petal. A little bit of shading, a little bit in there. Let's put a little bit round there. Again, in with that tortillon. See how useful they are. If you've got pastel pencils, these would work with those as well. Okay, going a little bit sort of darker there. Just add a couple of little dots in place. Let's have a little look at that. There we go. And just give it a little stem. Remember those little sort of curves? And there we go. So you could do your own little bouquets if you want to. You could have all sorts of different shaped petals going on in there as well. So quite a lot to do. So, okay, I've covered everything in the stencil. Okay, squares, you've got mini tiles. Think about tiny tiles. So you could actually create your own little frame with that. You could put squares within squares. This is a really nice one as well. If you wanted to do it and put a cross in it, and then you could put circles along the way, a little bit like, let's have a look at this one again. I'm referring to this book, really useful booklet. Here we go. So you could look at this, put your squares in, and you could then use the circles to create your own different shapes, thus creating something like that. all these extra tangles in. See, a bit of pencil. So lots and lots of things to do. So okay, I think all done and covered, all sorted. I've covered the tortillons, which are important, the tiles. Don't forget, of course, you have got some photo corners in there. We do tend to use photo corners with our tiles. It just means that rather than sticking this straight on, if you use the corners, these will stick onto your cardstock. And then if the person that received this wanted to actually take this off the card and keep it, or you wanted to put a message on the back, then they could do that, and it's not going to damage your tile in any way. So they're really useful, and they're sort of sticky on the back. Just be careful how you sort of take them off, because what I tend to do is take my little tile and then push it in and then peel it away. That means that you're not going to get it sticky and you're not going to get any trouble with it. So, okay, hope that's been useful, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed watching, and I hope it's given you a little bit of inspiration to actually try this out for yourself and get going with some tangling. So leaving it there now, and okay, have fun. Let me know how you get on, and maybe I'll see you soon. Take care then. Bye.